Jeff Bezos explains how to plan for a turbulent future with this simple three-word question. This is the Focus Group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Tim Bennett. Find us here every Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. live on Facebook Live or YouTube, or visit focusgroupradio.com, our URL, and you'll find out all the things about us, including our Tuesday podcast on Button, which drops on Tuesday, which is why I call it a Tuesday podcast. But it's 3 stories about 20 minutes long. Friends of Tim's say it's either Stairmasterable or it's a commute.
Commutable.
Commutable, and I tend to agree. So here we are in June 10th. June is Pride Month. It seems like Tim and I were on the phone the other day, and just Tim stops the conversation. He goes, wait a minute. I said, what is he? He goes, can you believe it's June already? Can we believe, is this? Yeah, the year is flying by. 2020 is going to be either the forgotten year or the year we all remember, or I don't know what. But we know what we're all doing. It's just suddenly it's summertime, right, Tim?
It's the summertime, and the event is full throttle. So. By the way, for all our listeners out there, we refer to it as the event because if we refer to it by anything else, we get taken down. So when you ever hear us, some listeners have laughed about it. Why are you calling it the event? Because that's what it is. It's the event. And AI doesn't pick up the event.
So if we use the words alien invasion, that's something different, right?
Exactly. John, I noticed you got a different setup today. You're letting us at a peek into your. Is that Bob sleeping in the back? Is he taking a nap behind you?
Bob is decorated. He repainted the bedroom. And what Tim's referring to is Focus Group is upgrading our technology. We have new webcams. Mine arrived this morning. I think Tim's arrived too, but not where he's at right now. And he'll look 1080p fantastic next week.
So does it make the picture wider as well? Or are you just situated differently?
Yeah. No, I the more I study the picture, and Garrett said something about that at the start too, and and Steve, hey, we got the boys in the booth, Garrett and Steve, they bring us to you every week, and we couldn't do it without them, and they're fantastic. And when this turned on, Steve just said, oh, there's a bed. Because I guess you couldn't see that before because of the way I had it myself set up, right?
No, that's why I said I hope Bob doesn't come in for a nap. It'll just take you. You want to be like one of those things you see the viral campaigns when the kids come running into the room during dad's or mom's
they're
broadcast.
unaware of it. Yeah. Now, if you look in I don't know if you can see it or not, but over one of my shoulders, way in the back, there's a poster hanging, and it happens to be an original 1977 Star Wars one sheet, they called them. This is what they would send to the theaters, rolled up or folded up, to put in those glass display cases back in the day. This is the second one I have. One is the original one that, Tim, you'll remember this very well, Naugatuck Valley Mall.
Did you got it from there?
Yeah, because I saw my original, which is hanging in my office in the city, was folded, and I went so many times that the theater manager knew me and my friend Ricky who went, and he's like, the day they took the poster down, we were there because we saw like the last showing in the theater, and he's like, do you want the poster? We're like, of course I do, and I put it away for years, and I found it folded up, and then we had it linen backed. That's a process where they maybe I don't even have to go into the process, but they put it on a special material to keep the poster from degrading or getting older. It's acid free, the whole bit. And I know, you know what? We had this. Bob found this poster when he was repainting the house, and he said, do you want to hang it up? I said, no. I have one in the city. And I finally thought, what the hell? I'm just going to put it up because
if you enjoy it, yeah. If you enjoy it and it brings you joy.
It matches the new room colors and things like that. So.
Wow. Well, it looks good. I like the color blue. That looks nice.
He did a really good job. 2 of the walls are dark blue. I thought this was kind of a you and Richard thing, actually. Like, you guys are really, you're good with color. Hey, folks, you might not know this, but Tim's a superb decorator.
No, I am not. That is a joke. Anyone who's listening knows that's crazy. There's a lot of things I am. being a decorator is not one. And you're the same way. If you and I lived together, if Bob and Richard lived together and you and I lived together, you and I would have cinder blocks and a board with some books on it, some chairs, things, and milk carton. The other
Plastic
two,
cup, a spoon.
right. Right. You'd be like, we only need 2 forks. There's only 2 people. So it's, no, I am not a decorator, but I, as you can tell by the room I'm in an old garage.
I don't know why you say that. When you at your house down in PA, your living room, when you did, it's that really great red, and you had the leather chairs. I thought that you did a fantastic job with the whole house, but
kind of Aaron Shockish, I guess, kind of Downton Abbey. Aaron Shockish decorated. But
now he's out doing the circuit parties and stuff. Yeah. So you're back in PA for a little bit, right?
I am, but I'll tell you what, the folks here are a little more, Delaware was a bit more open,
relaxed,
I guess, for lack of a better word. But it's still a little leery here in PA around the Philadelphia area. So it's I may head back to Delaware shortly, just because everything was open there. The restaurants are all open, all the shops are open. You have to wear masks. There are rules, but there's not a lot of things open here yet. They're probably 3 or 4 weeks behind Delaware, I would say.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The phases are a little different for the different parts of the country, and upstate New York is one way, and the city is another, and eventually everything's going to catch up. And I actually think PA and New York are doing a great job, as well as Jersey and Massachusetts. So we'll keep our eyes on it, but not bad. Hey, I wanted to mention to folks that Fiverr has been a partner of ours here on the Focus Group since the beginning of the year, and it's fiverr.com. Fiverr is a place to go to get a lot of different things done, most notably logos, graphic design work. You could even have voiceovers, jingles. Tim found somebody who had a jingle done. And to give you an example of how we use Fiverr, I used 3 different artists from around the world this week for very different things. I had an artist in Vietnam create an outline of a silhouette of an animal that we were using as a logo for one of our clients. It was turned around in about an hour and a half. I had asked him to keep the file very low complexity, and for certain designers who use Adobe Illustrator, you'll know what I mean by that. Came back perfect. I mean, I didn't make one change. Then I had a woman out west create a map for me, like a little infographic map. She did that in about 3 hours. And then most recently, I had an artist in Pakistan he took a logo, a very complex logo that we did, and the client wanted to have it embroidered onto clothing. And they asked for a certain kind of a file called a DST file, which I did a little research on. It's kind of an AutoCAD thing, but he took it, he simplified it, and created the logo so it could be stitched. Again, done in about a day. All 3 jobs I'm talking about may have cost $50-some. So I think if you have anything you're working on or you need something done, by all means, just pop over to Fiverr.com and start the shopping process, because I think you get almost anything done.
What was that country you mentioned that you got the embroidery done?
Pakistan.
Oh, because you said Pakistan.
I think
you were doing your little accents again, which I love.
A little British. Yeah, Pakistan.
You're British. Yeah, as John mentioned, Fiverr is our one-stop shop for all our creative needs. It's a great place. And I'm always amazed at how quick everything turns around. That is the one thing that was really surprising to me when I work with them, is how quick things are done. So if you are on a time constraint, it's a good place to go. Be sure to check out Fiverr, and you'll receive 10% off your first order by using our code FOCUS. So again, find all your digital services, all your needs in one place at Fiverr, Fiverr.com. Use the code FOCUS. Again, it's Fiverr.com, code FOCUS.
They are the resource with the most. By the way, that last thing, that stitching thing, I never thought I'd find someone on there who knew what that was. Done. Anyway, moving along.
No, it's perfect.
So, what caught your eye this week, Mr. Bennett?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
This caught my eye only because I don't understand it. And
that's a great lead-in. Okay.
So the headline, it was picked up by, the story was done by CNN, but then it was been picked up at a bunch of other places. But the headline is Starbucks mugs and tumblers are in hot demand from bargain hunters. So they're saying, forget Gucci, Chanel, Louis Vuitton. It's Starbucks that seems to be emerging as this hot brand for bargain hunters. And they said in the past several weeks since the event, many people have been flocking to these very popular resale wholesale marketplaces, or I'm sorry, resale marketplaces like Poshmark or OfferUp. And they're buying up vintage or recent mugs, tumblers, cups, even paper cups, anything that seems to have been put out by the Seattle brand, Starbucks. They said they think it's something triggering back to nostalgia because of most of the stores have been closed since the spring. And their online stores, they've closed in 2017. So in order to buy any tumblers or mugs or any of the new gadgets that they sell in the stores, you actually have to go into a retail store. So people have been putting things up online, and the prices are unbelievable. And they've contacted Starbucks to ask them what they think. They haven't said anything, but they said they were aware of the fact that a lot of the Starbucks products were trending in the top 10 on a lot of these resale sites. And so on the second slide, I posted there a few of the items. I just couldn't believe there's 8 of those cups there together in the upper right. What do you think they're going for? John, if you could see those.
I do. And is this like an eBay thing that people are buying this stuff on eBay? And
yeah, but they're saying it's OfferUp and Poshmark. But
if I said they were going for $10 a piece, is that too low?
You'd be way low.
Wow. So maybe 40 a piece?
So that set of, I believe there's 8 of them there. That set is marked at $1,500.
$1,500?
Mm-hmm.
That's even better than the Antiques Roadshow when they do like, I found the Declaration of Independence, and the price goes up and up.
And then there's the 2 little tumblers that are there. They're selling for about $103 in the picture there. And then the other one that I just find, those 2 tumblers there are $103. The other thing I find, there's a Christmas cup. It's a paper cup that you would get at holiday time, the Christmas cup there. What do you think that's selling for? Unused.
It's only worth like $1 or $2. But if I said $25,
we're at $15.
15. Okay, my God.
I just think, it's crazy. So they're saying that they just think this is the fact that people, even though drive-thrus are open, that people seem to have had this. I didn't know this was a thing. I have a couple of Starbucks mugs that I bought. I bought when I would travel to cities. I never knew what to get. So if I went to London or Tokyo or whatever, I'd buy a Starbucks mug, and that would be the only thing I would have from the city. And so I have a few of those. I'm thinking, I wonder if I should just put them up here and see what I can get for them. I don't use them much. I use them for soup a little bit, but
what they were never even intended for. I use them for soup.
Well, they're too big for coffee. I think they're way too big. But I like the Starbucks tumblers. I like the sort of things. But I was just shocked by the fact that they're
that expensive.
And they're getting this sort of price for them, and that it's a thing.
Okay, so even though they were premiums in some senses that they sold, they are kind of one of a kind, right? I mean, they did the run. They manufactured them. They were sold several years ago, so they're hard to find. Those tumblers that are up there now, if you're watching on our video feed, those apparently, I haven't seen these, but they change color when either hot or cold liquids go in them. They change color, but it's very Pride, very June, isn't it? Yeah, and is there a price for those?
Those are very hot right now, and those again were in the hundreds or thousands, depending on how many you wanted.
This is such a funny caught your eye that you've put up here, and I'm going to dovetail it very slightly into something that Bob was doing. So he's been cleaning out a lot of stuff, and he found a little glass vase from his family, and he put it up on eBay for $5, $10.
Was it on the Mayflower?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people started contacting him and saying, are you sure it shouldn't be priced a little bit higher? Do you know what this is? Do you know what you're really looking at?
Oh my gosh.
Finally, someone sends him a note saying, I think this is Steuben glass, and it might be from the turn of the century, like 1910 or something. And so he did a little research and found out that it was a little Steuben vase, and it's probably worth about $200. So he pulled it off eBay, and the person who alerted him to the possible value of it was like, oh, shucks, I did it. It was kind of like one good deed. You do something good. You tell someone, hey, you better check the pricing on that. And suddenly
I'm actually surprised with Bob. I'm kind
really
of shocked. Because I would have thought Bob would have been on it. Bob knows antiques like Matt does. Bob knows things, doesn't he? He knows what value of things. And I'm surprised he didn't say, oh, this is Steuben glass.
And bringing up Matt's perfect because he and Matt know this stuff. But there were no markings. So he flipped it over, magnifying glass. He couldn't find anything that was stamped or marked that would probably give it away. Meanwhile, I come from a family where the last time my mom was crowing about the fine china, my old business partner Greg flips it over and realizes it came from Czechoslovakia, and he goes, "That country didn't exist until 19 something." And my mom's like, "Oh, this came over in the 1800s." And Greg's like, "No, it's impossible because it wasn't a country then."
Well, it was. You didn't know it. I wonder. So did Bob repost at $200, or is he going to repost the vase, or is he going to keep it now?
He's going to keep it and then maybe repost it now that it has value. He's going to keep it. Yeah.
Wow.
None of my objects merit this, by the way. I last time I looked at something, Bob looked at it and he goes, "You could get like a dime for that." I'm like, "Okay, might as well just donate it or throw it away."
But don't you have some models and things that you had that were unopened? I'm sure they would bring in some money for the right person, right?
Yeah, what Tim's talking about is years ago, probably in the late 90s, I had this thing where I wanted to rebuild every model kit that I did as a kid. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't happy, but I went and found them all. Some of them are still wrapped in the plastic. And then I never did it. I looked at the boxes. I got a lot of enjoyment out of looking at the boxes and what the model could look like, and I remembered building it, and I just put them away. And then I realized some of them. There's one model I have from 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think the model goes back to 1964 or something. That's probably worth something. But you look online; these are mass produced. Right. So you think, oh, it's hundreds. $40, $45. I'm still going to get rid of them because why have them? Let someone else get the enjoyment out of them, right?
I tried to do that here in my house. I thought if there was ever an emergency or you had to get everything out, if you had to take out the most valuable things, and obviously your laptop and that sort of stuff that you need to live with, your phone. But if you had to take out the valuable things, and I was trying to think what I would grab, and while it's probably not worth anything to anybody, there's a picture that my grandmother painted of her old schoolhouse. Probably she did it in the 30s or 40s that I have hanging up. And that's always the thing I would have grabbed first, I think. But I don't think I have. I'm kind of like you. I'm not sure I have anything that's worth of any sort of great value other than sentimental value, right? You would grab a photo album or something.
It's the sentimental thing. And it's funny you bring this up because this is my latest obsession is imagine just picking up a hard drive or having a little hard drive in a fireproof box or something, and on it was scans of your tax returns, scans of your passport, and more importantly, your photos.
Right.
And if it survives the fire, you just pick that thing up and you're like, well, I can print out the pictures again. I can print out the documents again. But you're right. Beyond that, it would have to be something sentimental, and I'm not quite sure what that would be. I had to puzzle about that.
Well, if you had a family picture that was hanging up, or you had something that, that poster in your bedroom, right? Because that has a story behind it. No,
yeah. Did you see me trying to get the fireman? Drop it, drop it. It's just a fucking Star Wars poster.
You don't understand. I got that the final day at the Waterbury Mall.
You don't know. It's Waterbury. No, the mall doesn't even exist anymore. The windows are blowing out. Yeah, they would put me in the paddy wagon after that one. Like, not only did we save your life, we're going to save your sanity.
Jeez, what caught your eye?
Well, what caught my eye was this funny little project this guy did, and it's Marty Bell is the founder, and it's called Poolside.fm, the chillest place you should be hanging out at right now. It's an online radio station. And it's perpetually 1997 there. And in fact, they did a resurfacing of the website so that when you're there, it looks like the Macintosh operating system from the mid-90s. And you can actually click on things and open files. And it plays music that's been curated and piped in from SoundCloud. And then the video is often old ads, like old Pepsi and Coke ads and stuff. And It's really, I was mesmerized by it. So this guy created this one summer when he was in Scotland, and it was doing nothing but raining every single day. So he thought, I got to create a place in my head where I can go where it's sunny every day and there's a pool party. Hence, Poolside FM was created. It has well over 1 million views and visitors. Considering it was created by one person who basically did this themselves, that's a pretty amazing feat from a viral marketing point of view. And so that was my thing. How did
you find it?
It was mentioned in The Verge or Gizmodo, and I often wonder how their editors find things. But the woman who wrote the piece about this said she just happened upon it and just sat for half an hour and was transported away to a simpler time with fun music. And so check it out, poolside.fm. It's I think it's hysterical, and you'll get it, and you click around on it, and it acts like an old Macintosh operating thing.
I loved it. So when I saw this in the deck, I turned it on. I love that kind of music, and I thought, oh, this is so John. But then I thought, God, it's so irritating. Look at these old icons. I can't believe they did this. So I'm thinking that was done on purpose. There you go.
Yeah.
So the iconography and all that stuff was done on purpose, is what you're saying.
Yes. And the video is all
cheesy.
Lines through it, and look, these women at the pool with their bikinis, and hey, how you doing, hon? And even the audio, the media player looks like something Apple would have done in the 1990s.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great, and I did sign up for the newsletter. I don't know if you did.
You did?
Yeah. Because they said that they're going to be able to they're going to be launching another version maybe or something. So I just thought it was great, though. It was a good find. I love this sort of stuff.
Did you have it playing for a while?
Oh yeah, I had it on this morning before I made the mistake turning on something over in Sirius XM. But other than that, it was this was far better.
This is so 90s, right? It's like Baywatch. It's like watching Baywatch, and now they're all
the dance
at the pool party.
Oh, here we go. Here comes the suit.
How entertaining, how simple, and how funny, I think. I don't know. I liked it. So it's poolside.fm.
It was great. And the music is great, too. And that's what's so fun about it. Coolio.
Yeah, we got a business birthday, I think.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Born today, June 10th, in 1916, William Rosenberg. He died September 22nd, 2002, at 86 years old. You would know him by his brand that he founded. He was the American entrepreneur who founded Dunkin Donuts. He founded the franchise in 1950 in Quincy, Massachusetts. He was one of the early pioneers in name brand franchising. When he bought the first donut shop in 48, it was called Open Kettle. And by the end of
Open Kettle?
Open Kettle, Kettle. He bought one donut shop in Quincy, Mass. Called Open Kettle. He changed the name to Dunkin Donuts. At the end of 2019, there were more than 12,000 outlets in 32 countries with $1.4 billion in annual sales. Rosenberg was born in Boston, and he was one of 4 children of Jewish-German immigrants from Prussia. And he had to leave school early to go help the family because during the Depression, the family lost their store. So he left school in the 8th grade to go find a number of jobs. He worked at Western Union. He also worked at Simcoe, which was a company that distributed ice cream from refrigerator trucks. And he kept working his way up. And right at the start of World War II, he joined Bethlehem Steel. And he would later go on to become the very first Jewish trade union delegate for Bethlehem Steel. And he borrowed $1,000. He had $1,500 in war bonds, and he borrowed $1,000. And he took his knowledge of food and decided to open up something called the Industrial Luncheon Services Company. And you remember those silver trucks that would show up at all those workplaces, and they would open up the flap, and then there would be sandwiches and coffees and all that sort of stuff.
Favorite thing, because there was a pattern to that aluminum too, right? Remember that?
Yep.
There was like a bit of a pattern, and it was always the same. The side went up, and there was I think it was pre-made sandwiches and drinks and stuff. What a cool thing.
Right. So he started this. He created his own catering vehicles, and the sides rose up to reveal the sandwiches and the snacks and so forth, all the stainless steel shelves. And they said it really was a prototype for a lot of today's mobile catering vans. And within a short period of time, he had over 200 trucks that would go out every day. But he noticed that 40% of his revenue was coming from coffee and donuts. So he thought, you know what, we should start a coffee and donut shop. I always love these sort of things, right? I mean, here's this guy, he's out catering thing, busting his hump, doing this vending thing with these trucks, and realizes that most of his revenue, almost half of it's coming from coffee and donuts. So he buys this donut shop, Open Kettle, renames it Dunkin Donuts. And he said most bakeries, which is funny if you go to a bakery, he said they'll only offer 3 or 4 types of donuts. He offered 52 different varieties of donuts when he opened. And he decided to then franchise the shop after he had 6 of them. And by 1959, he started a trade show group for franchises as well, which was the very first franchise group. Later on, became to be known as the International Franchise Association in the 60s. And he, on a side note, he bought a farm called Wilrose Farm, and he became the largest breeder of standard bred horses in New England, and had that as a hobby. But I always like when these sort of folks rise up to see a need for something, or a need for, or stumble on the fact that, hey, I've got this catering business and I'm finding out a lot of people are buying coffee and donuts, and starts this donut shop. You know, I did that work for a short time, John, with Salad Works, which was a similar story. The guy was a chef at a country club, and in the mid 80s, he would start getting all these requests for just big salads with some protein on them. So it was the reverse of getting a big meal and then a side salad. They wanted the side salad to be the center of the plate, and maybe throw a little chicken or beef or something on it, or fish. And that's how Salad Works started, the same sort of thing. Somebody noticed what was going on in the kitchen and then decided to, capitalize on it. So
couple of cool things about this.
Rosenberg.
Yeah, a couple cool things about this story. One, if he had kept that name, whatever, the Open Kettle.
Open Kettle.
So clearly the smart thing that he did was renaming and coming up with Dunkin Donuts, right? Like, it's perfect. And was Dunkin Donuts still individually owned, or did Willie Hortons buy them? What was that Canadian coffee chain?
Tim
Hortons. Yeah. Is that who ended up buying Dunkin Donuts, or are they still independent?
Well, Dunkin Donuts is still its own. Now, I don't know exactly if it's owned by a holding company, but Tim Hortons is the equivalent of Dunkin Donuts in Canada. And they bought most of whoever the franchisee was that owned a lot of the New York outlets. They bought them and made all the Dunkin Donuts Tim Hortons, remember?
Yeah, because back in the day when we were on Sirius, you came into the studio one day and you had a Tim Hortons cup.
Yeah.
And normally you would get a Dunkin Donuts, because I think that was on your way out of Penn Station. You actually walk right by one of their franchises, and you're like, oh, Tim Horton came and bought up the Dunkin Donuts there. So, and
Dunkin Donuts, I believe, is better. I really do believe they're better than Tim Hortons. And Dunkin Donuts, I know you're not a coffee drinker, John, but there is a funny thing with Dunkin Donuts. They, depending upon who the franchisee is, they all taste a little different. And in certain areas, like here where I am in PA, there's 3 or 4 of them within 5 miles. Everybody knows which one to go to. That seems to be the cleanest and tastes the best. So that's
and that's a mystery. Maybe that has to do with filters and water and who knows what else. But they also sell Dunkin Donuts did a brand extension, and you could buy their ground coffee like you would buy like Starbucks or something like that. And a lot of people do buy Dunkin Donuts ground coffee, right, to make it at home.
Yes, we have it. I don't particularly care for it. I'm a Peet's fan. I like Peet's coffee, Peet apostrophe S.
Mm-hmm.
I love Peet's. And you and I used to make you stop when we'd be in California. We'd go to the Santa Monica Boulevard, the Peet's, because we didn't have them back east then, but now they're here.
Oh, that's right. All right. Excellent business birthday, and it's a cool business story on top of it. And he made some key correct decisions to get that to where it is today. Hey, as many of you know, Deep Discount has been a partner of ours here on the Focus Group since we've moved to this new format many years ago, and we're very happy to have them join us. To start your shopping experience at Deep Discount, go to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo. Arr, it's a shark, and the shark is oddly named Sharky the Shark, which is kind of appropriate. There is a site-wide summer sale going on right now. It's our favorite time of year for this. I think the site-wide sales happen maybe 2 times a year, and we're allowed to roam and buy what we want. And there's so much you can get at Deep Discount. Besides Blu-rays, DVDs, there's music. I think they are the biggest source for vinyl records. Is that right, Tim?
I believe so, yes. And there's some great, if you're a music fan too, aside from movies and TV and all the other media, there's some great music and a lot of import stuff that's hard to find.
So start your shopping experience, and Tim's going to kick us off with an idea of what he would like to get this week.
So I found gold this week at the site-wide sale.
There's gold in them there hills.
I couldn't believe my fortune. I'll just read you the headline. Richard Simmons, Sweatin' to the Oldies, The Complete Collection, 30th Anniversary Edition. On DVD, this came out in 2017. We all know Richard Simmons, the health and fitness guru. So you get all 6 discs of his oldies collection. So it's exercising to the oldies tunes of the 50s and 60s. And it features a lot of the classic infomercial type workouts he would do on on TV. And then there's actually a 6th bonus disc and an exclusive disc of Sweatin' that they did from the 80s. But this was all made popular in the 80s. It's got everything, right? You got the camp, you've got Richard Simmons, it's June Pride, there's comedy, there's everything. Music. Who doesn't like the 50s and the 60s music, the oldies? You got Simmons. I used to love seeing Richard Simmons on Letterman. He and Letterman had it was such a shtick, you knew it, but poor Richard Simmons would pretend he was upset, and Letterman would just keep pushing him and tease him about his shorts and all the other stuff. But I used to love when Richard Simmons was a guest because you always knew fun was going to ensue. So pick up this Richard Simmons Sweatin' to the Oldies, and the price is $25.99 for all 6 discs. You're not going to find a better price anywhere. So
before we leave that one, look at the genre for a moment. I think the genre tells you everything you need to know about this particular collection and why you have to have it. Genre: health and fitness, TV variety, and miscellaneous. I don't know how they classify miscellaneous, but we're going to have to talk to Lauren.
We're going to have to talk to Lauren and have him set up a new category, camp. There should be a camp category. And you and I, that would be an idea, the focus group camp. And you and I will curate our list of what goes into the camp category. It could be pretty funny.
It's a brilliant idea. And Lauren watches every week. So Lauren, this could be a club, the camp club, camp focus group, camp focus group, right? And your first entry is Richard Simmons Sweatin' to the Oldies, right? And, when you brought up his appearances on David Letterman, I think that was a great comment you made because Letterman knew he could have fun with Richard Simmons, and Richard Simmons did not take himself seriously enough that he couldn't allow David Letterman to have fun with him. And those segments are hilarious. It just brought back some great memories. I'm glad you brought that up. Those ridiculous
shorts. Remember those shorty shorts,
trademark
shorts? Yeah, I mean, and the bedazzled tank tops, and it was just hilarious. So.
Oh, well, mine's not as fun, but it is in honor of Pride Month. There's a movie that I've been meaning to see for quite some time. Tim actually identified this a while ago. It's on the Criterion Collection currently on Blu-ray, which means, as Tim and I say with Criterion, the gold standard. Yes. And it's called Weekend, and I will describe it to you. It's this sensual, remarkably observed, beautifully acted wonder is the breakout feature from British writer, director, editor. It's a lot of things he does, Andrew Hay. Rarely has a film been as honest about sexuality in both depiction and discussion as this tale of a one-night stand that develops into a weekend-long idyll for 2 very young men in Midlands, England. It's an emotionally naked film that's both an invaluable snapshot of the complexities of contemporary gay living and a universally identifiable portrait of a love affair. Got great reviews when it came out. It's one of these things that I've always been meaning to see, and when I saw it on the site-wide sale, I'm like, now I got to get it, and it's Criterion. So
Mark and Carl recommend. So listeners, Mark and Carl, hello. They recommended this.
Hello, Mark and Carl.
Yeah, no, they recommended this, I think, as well. They're huge fans of this movie, and I've not seen it either. And I keep saying I'm going to, so I'm glad you reminded me again.
Well, I'll get this. You get Richard Simmons. We'll watch and swap.
Or you'll come visit and we'll make a weekend out of it.
You might not for camp focus group. Camp focus group. Lauren, I know you're listening. All right, so the new release this week is a show that I have been meaning to watch as well, and it's Watchmen, an HBO limited series on Blu-ray. Many of you may or may not know, but probably a lot of you know that Watchmen is a very famous graphic novel. It's one of the top 10 graphic novels ever done, and it's about retired superheroes. It was made into a movie which slavishly reproduced almost every single drawn frame in that book, possibly to the detriment of the movie. This got great reviews. Hey, guys in the booth, did any of you watch Watchmen? Are you fans of that?
I watched it.
Yay, nay?
I liked it. I mean, they do a little modern day what's going on now thing in the plot, and it's like, oh, all right, I get it. But yeah, it wasn't bad at all. I actually liked it.
Yeah, I heard good things, and a lot of people that liked it were hoping for a second season, but this is it. This is the season they did. Damon Lindelof was the producer, and he's basically said, no, we've been able to tell the story in this one season, which I think is fantastic. But I heard a lot of good things about it. So Watchmen limited series on Blu-ray is the new release this week. And there you go.
So head over to focusgroupradio.com, click on the deep discount logo because we'd like to get credit for it. You'll see Sharky the Shark there. It's a site-wide summer sale. I picked Richard Simmons, Sweatin' to the Oldies 30th Anniversary Edition. John picked a Criterion Collection movie Weekend on Blu-ray. And the new release this week is Watchmen, an HBO limited series on Blu-ray. Right, Garrett?
Thanks, Deep Discount.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with some shop talk.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with The Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is the URL you need to know to find out about us, the show, and our Tuesday podcast Unbuttoned as well. And soon we'll be telling you about a new club to join called Camp Focus Group.
I can't.
So, yeah, Tim, actually, you're right. I think it should be High Camp. Not just camp, but High Camp.
High Camp.
And that has a lot of implications for perhaps if you're a cannabis client. Sell. Yeah. So 2 shop talks for you that I think you might enjoy. The first one comes to us, and it's about Jeff Bezos, who gave a speech recently about planning for the future during turbulent times and how he thinks about it and how he wants other people to think about it. So he said, let me find his little quote here. So here he is this is what he says, and I'll return to a part of it in a moment. He says, well, certainly in 10 years, many things will evolve. Technology will change. Machine learning technology in particular will evolve very significantly over the 10-year time horizon. But I would always encourage people when they think about 10 years to ask the question, what won't change? That's actually the more important question. You could build strategies around things that will be stable in time. In that 10-year vision, there's a bunch of things at Amazon that we are not going to change. One of them, maybe the most important one, is that we will still stay customer-obsessed instead of competitor-obsessed. We will work on maintaining that culture. And the writer of the article says, did you catch that question? And I'll go back to it. What won't change? It's kind of like going all the way back to the business birthday where you recognize something that somebody uses every day or, solving a problem that you see in your life over a period of a month. What won't change? It's a fascinating flip. Instead of looking down the road and saying, where do I have to be, even though you have no idea how you're going to get there or what that is, this is a very interesting thing to rest a business growth strategy on, don't you think?
Yeah, and I was trying to think about that with our business and with other businesses is what won't change. Because things will change, right? Technology, the change is inevitable. And it's whether you plan for it or not. And so I thought this was a smart thing. But I was trying to think with us, with our consultancy, for instance, what won't change, do you think, in 10 years? I think that's a hard question to. Maybe it's right in your face, but I don't know. I was trying to think about that.
It's the hardest question to answer. So I did a little mental test on this one, and I thought about it for a minute, and I thought, let's look at our personal lives. Here's a couple things that will not change as long as we're alive, probably. You're going to have to do laundry. Either you're going to do it, it has to get done. Clothes get dirty, dishes get dirty. In business, if you manufacture a product, the one thing that will not change is how do you get that product to the customer? How do you introduce the product to the customer? And how do you get them excited about it? In other words, basic advertising. Like, here I am, buy me, here's what I do. So you can, Tim and I are frequently in meetings where people are talking about, hey, we're going to build this great site and we're going to do all these clicks. And, someone clicked 1,000 times on a tube of toothpaste. I like toothpaste too. I don't buy it every day.
Right.
But so the means of reaching somebody may be a digital campaign, or it may be billboards, out of home, print, TV, whatever. But the fundamental baseline question of that, or the need is that company has a need to get that product in front of people, right?
Right. Well, there's one example that you and I have been involved with is there's some talk with all of automated driving, for instance, or the driverless car. Will people still drive? So in 10 years from now, will people still drive, or could you just get an app and click and this driverless car shows up? And so I was trying to think, so if you were an automobile manufacturer, I guess the issue still is you need to provide transportation for people. That's just providing it in a different way.
Yeah. But haven't you always said, and one of the things that we've talked about in our many, many years working on auto, there are some people who just love to drive. They like the act of driving. They like being behind the wheel of a car. They like the whole thing about it. They don't mind if it takes an hour to get somewhere. They just like the act of driving. A self-driving car is going to take that away from certain consumers, right?
Right. And it's very much we're very much in America, or North America, particularly a car culture. And so that was why when I was looking at this, I thought, okay, with different industries that you are involved in, or we're both involved in, how would this change in terms of still being relevant, or still addressing the issue of what won't change? I want to provide reliable transportation. Maybe it's just in a different form.
And the author of the article said that one way of achieving this what won't change mindset is to look at three key areas: purpose, priorities, and people.
The three P's.
Here we go with the P's again, because there's the P's of marketing, and now there's the P's of the question. So in this case, purpose is, there's a reason you started your business. It's the why of your business. Why am I doing this? And priorities is similar. Like, the value of a priority is messaging. What's my business now? How do I prioritize this or that? And obviously, people is a big one too.
Yeah, and people in terms of empowering them, or let them have a culture where and we've talked about this with Bezos at another time, have a culture where failure is okay, because you're going to learn something from it, and you want your employees to be creative and be forward thinking, and so you empower them to make decisions and show that you value them. Yeah.
So I think this is a interesting question that I'm going to start asking myself as we work with some of our clients. What won't change? It's fascinating, because there are things that are going to stay static, and they have been that way for years. And there are things that are going to be changing and constantly evolving. But landing on that what won't part means you can provide a service for a long time to come. Kind of a weird way, just as tangential comment, but I read an article right before we came on air in Business Insider, and it was odd because it was the 3 software packages that you should learn if you want to have employment for the next couple of decades. And the one that surprised me the most was something called AutoCAD. Autodesk AutoCAD. It's a 2D and 3D program that they use to prototype devices, or for blueprinting and architecture. And I thought about it, and I thought AutoCAD designers are often in demand because it's a highly complex software. So staying on top of that means you'll probably be employed as long as people are still using AutoCAD, right?
How difficult would that be to learn that? I mean, you're very tech savvy. Would that be a very difficult thing? I wonder what the learning curve is on something like that.
I've opened AutoCAD in the past. It's familiar to me because I work with 3D animating software. I think you could probably take a course in it. Another one that they talked about was learning CSS, or some of the programming languages that websites are built out of. Again, you'll probably be in demand. But yeah, to answer the question, I think AutoCAD has a bit of a steep learning curve, because I think that a lot of the people that transitioned to AutoCAD used to be draftsmen, who they actually used to do this by hand on drafting tables, and then they knew the design techniques and the drawings that had to be presented to people. It's interesting. So that was just like, I never thought of a career based on what software I knew. But there you go, right?
Well, that's it's probably very smart, because you could. It's probably not as ageist as some other careers.
Very
right?
true. Very true. As long as you have the skills, you're employable.
Yeah. Right. What was the second article?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Here we go. So our next shop talk is entitled "Warren Buffett Says Your Success in Life is Defined by One Word. It's the most obvious solution to our current problems in business and society." Berkshire Hathaway chairman and CEO Warren Buffett, the greatest investor of our generation, is also a champion of personal development who has shared a surplus of advice to help us live a good life. Here's a quote that he gave that gives the one word. He says, basically, when you get to my age, you'll really measure your success in life by how many of the people you want to have love you actually do love you. That's the ultimate test of how you have lived your life. The more you give love away, the more you get. So it's the one word, love, which I was not expecting to come out of Warren Buffett. But there you have it, right?
That's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. I read this. I don't know. I called a little BS on this to a certain extent. I think it's okay when you're a multi-billionaire to just say, just love people. Things will all be good. I don't know. Were you skeptical of this one, or did you find this to be? Did you believe what he was saying?
I think that his quote is cool. And it's like you said, you get to a point in life and you're like, hey, this is really amazing. It's Warren Buffett saying this. They break it down into three things. They're like, give love to your give love to your peers and colleagues. Work well with people. Give love to your employees. Treat them well. And give love to your customers. But if you subtract the word love and you put in respect, or if you put in, act with decency or empower, right. Like I think you could work around. So I think it was kind of a, I don't want to call the article a bait and switch, but I think somebody finds this quote by Warren Buffett and thinks there's some magical, that was a nice quote about getting to the end of your years and realizing, this is a quality that matters, but wresting a whole business story out of that was a bit of a spelunking expedition, right?
It's what you and I have said a million times. There's been one business book written. They're all this, and there's one business article written. It's all the same thing, right? Treat people the way you want to be treated, and essentially you'll be okay. I mean, at the end of the day, all these business stories sometimes tend to run together. They just use different words. But I did agree with the third thing that you mentioned about, or the second thing was give love away to your employees if you're a manager or leader. And I found myself great success by allowing people to have ownership in what they were working on and making those sort of decisions for themselves. If they had a budget and they would be scared about spending it perhaps or whatever, and I'd say, hey, if your name was on the outside of the building, would you do this? Would you spend the money? And sometimes I would say 9 times out of 10, they would say yes because they were very much committed to the project they were working on. But there were times when somebody would say, I don't think I would. Maybe it's too risky. And rethink it. And I'd say it's okay if it's risky, but if you want to spend this sort of money and take this money out of your budget, let's just plan for what happens if it's a success or it's not a success. What are we going to do then? Because you're not going to get any additional dollars. So let's figure out how it's going to work. But I would always do that to people to say, if this was John Nash Incorporated, would you spend the money?
Well, I'm chuckling because one day I sent you a proposal for a sponsorship of a sports team that was doing one of those adventure races. And we were really excited because we thought they're going to be on TV. It's going to get great coverage. So the proposal goes out. Tim was very responsive especially with proposals that had a time frame attached to them. And so maybe about 4 hours later, I get an email back. Sounds good. I think we want to do it. Call me. I call you up and I'm like, what do you think? What do you think? And you're like, what happens if they lose? You got to plan for the fact that they may not crack the top 3, 4, 5, and they may actually get dropped out at some point. It was a sobering bucket of water, and I get off the phone, and you said, I want to do it. We should do it, but please bear in mind that make it a part of the budget that you're not going to mind sacrificing, because it really is a roll of the dice. And in fact, the team was out of that race pretty soon after they entered it. It was a stiff competition and dangerous conditions.
Well, if I remember correctly, one of the people got hurt right before it started.
Yes.
And then the other thing that happened that you can't control, and this is why, because I then got questioned about why we invested this money and we had zero exposure. But you remember what also happened is another car brand came in and they sponsored the whole show. So we had a team. So we had the Subaru Adventure team, but the whole broadcast on Discovery, I think, was brought to you by General Motors. So they were by no means going to show the Subaru team, which happens in a lot of these things. that you could go in and have your team, or you could be involved in some way. But if you don't buy, that's where we always say this to brands. If you want to activate a sponsorship, it's going to cost you 3 times as much as your initial cost into a sponsorship. You just can't say, I'm going to sponsor something and hang up a banner. You then have to do all the other work around it. And people seem to forget about that. And it's a big part of activating a sponsorship or experiential marketing correctly.
That's how you actually educated me on Cyndi Lauper used to do the True Colors tour.
Right.
Back in the mid 2000s. It was an interesting opportunity. We could have been one of the sponsors of the nationwide tour. You looked at the number, you looked at the cities, and you said, this is a really great opportunity if you had 3 times as much money as you have right now. And I said, why? And you said, well, just because the concert comes to town and it's brought to you by Subaru doesn't necessarily mean people are going to know that. You are going to want to work with radio stations to give tickets away. You're going to want to create premiums for people to wear when they come to the concert that say the brand name. And everything was cha-ching, 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 like it was like a cash register ringing up everything to activate. So that was a fascinating lesson.
Right, because I think she was actually singing at the Nissan Theater, and then it was going to, then the next city was the Mercedes Stadium,
Theater,
whatever.
yeah.
So yeah, and you end up getting drowned out. Although I did it to success on the other end. Outback Steakhouses would do the Outback Bowl, the football bowl, and it was brought to you by Outback Steakhouse. And they again made the classic mistake. It was called the Outback Bowl, so they didn't really do any advertising. We bought all this Subaru Outback advertising around the Outback Bowl. When they did surveys, everybody thought Subaru sponsored the football event because we had all the Outback commercials on there.
Didn't you do the Gorge games too?
Well, we did the Gorge games, but Lincoln Mercury had come in and they decided they were going to take over the whole event. Yet we had a cycling team and all this other stuff there. So we bought a bunch of bags because we know when people go to these events, because they always have these little kind of trade fairs going around with selling bicycles or parts or magazines. And so we had these big plastic Subaru bags with the logos and gave them out like candy. So everybody could put all the brochures and little knickknacks and takeaways and all their swag. And Lincoln Mercury went crazy because the place was filled with Subaru bags. And they had sponsored the whole event, but they didn't have anything for people to put stuff in. So everybody was walking around with Subaru bags. So yeah,
Tim called that guerrilla marketing because you go around an event. Anyway, we got off the trail a little bit because you actually were talking about this give love away to your employees. You allowed them to make decisions. You allowed them to grow career-wise, make mistakes, stumble, sometimes do great work. So there you have it. That was our 2 little shop talks today. Some advice from Jeff Bezos about why things, what things don't change. And then we had Warren Buffett there.
Warren Buffett and love. Yeah. Love. So, hey, thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, John. Thanks to our boys in the booth, Steve and Garrett. We want to thank all of you who are listening and tuning in to our Tuesday podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned. Thanks to our friends at Fiverr, FIVERR.com. Get 10% off your first order using the code FOCUS if you're looking for any sort of creative needs and freelance talent in this time. And also a special thanks to Deep Discount, who's been with us for quite some time here and brings us to you each week. Head over to focusgroupradio.com and start shopping away. It's a site-wide sale right now. So remember to be safe out there. Don't text and drive, John. Arrive alive. We'll see you next week.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.